Music producers. This is Curtis King of CurtisKingBeats.com, and as I laid out last week, we are continuing the onward push to turn Curtspiration into a podcast. This is the second week of doing it in a row. I'm sorry for those of you that have felt a certain way about these turning into podcasts, but this is the natural transition. I've talked about it many a times, but where we're getting ready to go now is to a whole nother level, and it really does start with this podcast. I had a really great conversation with my buddy Richie last week and really told him the direction of things. And he'll still be working with me in terms of, the videographer work and things that I have planned for public speaking situations. So that's always Curtis King family right there. But I want to make sure that I lay that out just for those of you that are probably new to Curtspirations. Maybe you've seen a few of them and had no idea what is going on, and where's your camera at, man? My camera's working fine. We got more episodes coming this week, but for starters, today's episode is dealing with a very specific topic that was sent to me through my Curtspiration suggestion box, sent by Libera Beats. I believe it's Libera Beats. He basically asked the question, Zaytoven said, and he's referring to the producer Zaytoven. Zaytoven said he needs 10 to 15 minutes to make a beat. I need like 2 hours until I'm happy with the results. Should I take the time or should I make beats as fast as possible? Great question. Let's talk about how long is too long for a music producer to make a beat. So as I laid out in this question being told to me by a Libera Beats, he is asking a question that many producers ask on a daily basis, probably on a weekly basis, monthly basis, hourly basis, whatever it is. Many producers ask this question, especially in the beginning. There's a lot of insecurity around the amount of time that it takes you to create a beat. The first question I have for any producer, and the same question I ask myself, is why are you putting a time limit on your beats? What is causing you to believe that you need to create this beat within a certain amount of time, or it perhaps isn't worthy of the final product, or it isn't worthy of being called anything? It's funny when you look at the credits of songs these days, when you look at the credits, even production credits, you see about 4 or 5 or 6 different writers. You may even see 3 or 4 different producers. The way that music is being made today is a very collaborative process, as it always kind of has been. But the way that it's being made is a very collaborative process. So when you're thinking about comparing yourself to other producers, I don't know Zaytoven's situation. He could very well be making beats on his own. 10 to 15 minutes, he gets the very core ideas down. But at the very foundation of it, you have to understand that most producers that operate this way are working with teams. They're not the ones that are actually manually operating all the keys or every single instrument being put into the beat. And for those that do, most times they have a very straightforward, minimalistic sound. And that's not a shot to them. It's just the reality of what they actually have. Now, I think that when it comes to you as the music producer, the independent producer, or producer-nor, I think that we put these time limits on ourselves, and maybe we adopt them from the expectations that we feel that maybe our peers have for us, other producers, or maybe that rappers have for us, or maybe the expectations we put upon ourselves to compare ourselves to the best. However, when you really dig deep into what those expectations are and where they come from, you start to realize that they really should not have your full focus. The amount of time that you are putting on a particular beat, it is a lot of energy that you're putting on an external force, and you're really taking your eyes off of the prize. At the end of the day, it is your job to make the best product that you can, the best product possible. It is not your time to put a clock on like, can it be chopped? This is not what you have to do. I think that we're in an era where we get our information immediately out of our phones that are sitting inside of our pockets. We ask a question to a friend like, what kind of, I was asking my wife the other day, I was like, what kind of meat is ribs considered? And then she pulls out her phone, and within 5 minutes, or not even 5 minutes, I'm tripping, within 10 seconds, she presents an answer via Siri, via Google. And we are in this culture that makes us believe that we have to create these concepts. We have to create these beats in the same microwave, popcorn amount of time. And that's just not the way that things are done. That's not the way that these things happen. You know, many times we obsess over certain details, at least the producers that are passionate about their craft. I just can't imagine myself working on a beat. I don't care for how long I've been producing. I've been producing now for about 14, 15 years. I can't imagine sitting down, creating a beat in 15 minutes and feeling like, yes, I'm okay with that. There are way too many things that I understand as a producer, secondary as an engineer, thirdly as a sound designer. There's so many elements that I need to come back to. And really, as I say that, I start to think that maybe these producers that tell you they're working on beats 10 to 15 minutes, maybe they're telling you they're making a loop within 10 to 15 minutes. Whatever that is, whatever their reality is, and whatever they're trying to portray to you, it really has nothing to do with you. When you really think about it, what does the amount of time another producer works on their craft have to do with yours? You know, I remember reading stories or reading articles about Eminem would spend a week trying to finish the last line of a bar on a 16-bar verse. He would spend a week on a line. And you're talking about one of the greatest lyricists of our time spending a week on a line. So what kind of detail do you think that you're going to have to assess to your craft? Now, I'm sorry because I contradicted myself by asking you to answer that question dealing with somebody else's craft. But really, what I want you to take from this particular Curtspiration, scale it back. You know, it's good to dip every once in a while into someone else's creative process because after all, modeling someone else is how we learn. Seeing somebody work gives us inspiration, motivation. It gives us juice to want to continue and figure out ways that we can improve upon our craft and maybe even, you know, cut down some of that time. There's nothing wrong with that. But dip. Don't consume. Don't sit in there and just flood yourself with so much information and so many rules that you have no idea why some of these producers work the way they work. I've known producers that literally were in the same boat as me, where when I got off of, when I was about a freshman in high school, I knew that when I came home, I had about a 45 minutes to 1 hour block of time before my father came home and asked if I finished my homework. He didn't mind if he came home and saw me working on my homework, because to him that showed that I was being diligent, I was being studious, and I was doing what I was supposed to be doing at that age. But he was concerned if he walked inside my room and saw a PlayStation controller in my hand and me with headphones on making a beat. That did concern him, because then he wants to know, where's your homework at? And because he's a teacher, he was able to tell me what was right and what was wrong within my answers. So I knew that I had a 45-minute block of time. Now, this wasn't contingent. This wasn't relying upon any of my favorite producers saying you need to make a beat within 45 minutes. No, this had to do everything with my personal life and what I was going through at the time. But because of those circumstances, they created a very focused effort when it came to me making beats on my PlayStation. That segued to when I made beats on FL Studio. That segued all the way up until present day, to where I know now, for me at least, you see it in the Can It Be Chopped. In those first few minutes, I'm filling it out. I'm just trying to fill it out from my heart. I'm not using any technical information in my brain. I'm not looking for, what EQ. I'm not looking for none of that. No filters. I'm trying to fill this music on out. And when I fill this music on out, then I know the technical things that come with experience, where to go from there. But at the end of the day, I'm not sitting up here competing with no other producer. I'm not worried about any other producer. And I hope it's the same thing for you. Stop worrying about these other producers. Stop worrying about how long they take to make their beats, because it really has no effect on how long you should be working on your beats. So to answer the question at hand, how long is too long to make a beat? Only you know. Only you know. You know when you start to second guess sounds, when you start to add stuff that sounds silly, when you start to just kind of shortcut your way through the ending process of the beat. Sometimes, you need to take a step away and come back a few days later. I always use the example of Pharrell. Pharrell never goes into a studio session. I shouldn't say never, but he said he prefers not to go into just one studio session. He likes when there's 3 or 4 artists working in 3 different studios within the same building so that he can walk in and out of every single room and basically refresh his palette, refresh his musical palette. And every time he walks into another room, he gets an opportunity to work with a Robin Thicke or maybe a Miley Cyrus or maybe a Pusha T. And because of that, he can approach each single song with a fresh perspective. He can return back to the other studios and give it another fresh perspective based upon energy that was exchanged from another studio session. But this comes from his own process. This comes from him taking a step back. This comes with him allowing his palette to be refreshed, not forcing the process, not speeding the process through, and just letting it naturally come to you. Because at the end of the day, this is music. This is not, some binary, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 process. This is not some basic process. This is something that is a combination of technical skill, but at the heart of it, you gotta have some flavor. At the heart of it, you gotta have some actual foundation. You gotta have a heart. At the heart of it, you gotta have a heart when it comes to creating music. So this is something that I want you to review through. This is something that I want you to understand, that you don't have to do anything within anybody's time constraints. At the end of the day, just make your music. Once again, it's another Curtspiration doodle. For those of you that have any suggestions for future Curtspirations like the one today from Libera Beats, go to curtiskingbeats.com/Curtspiration. Coming back to the topic at hand, how long is too long? Only you know. When you start second guessing, when you start doing the silly stuff, you start adding instruments that you're not really feeling, but it's just the next best thing. Maybe you're taking too long on the beat. Maybe you need to take a little break away and come back when you're fresh. In this life, you will not be full of life until you decide to live life to its fullest. Curtis King at curtiskingbeats.com.
I can't listen to you. When I listen to you, it's a liability. Cause you be mentally killing my inner energy. So I'm concealing my feelings before you injure me.